war, 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 war. I didn't turn the desktop audio back on. There we go. She didn't say anything interesting.
Thank you, Corinne, and good afternoon.
She said war, 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 just like me. I was chanting with her.
Today, Iran launched nearly 200 ballistic missiles towards targets in Israel. The United States military coordinated closely with the Israeli Defense Forces to help defend Israel against this attack. U.S. naval destroyers joined Israeli air defense units in firing interceptors to shoot down inbound missiles. President Biden and Vice President Harris monitored the attack and the response from the White House Situation Room, joined in person and remotely by their national security team. We are still working with the IDF and the authorities in Israel to assess the impact of the attack. But at this time, and I stress at this time, we do not know of any deaths in Israel. We are tracking the reported death of a Palestinian civilian in Jericho in the West Bank. We do not know of any damage to aircraft or strategic military assets in Israel. In short, based on what we know at this point, this attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. This was first and foremost the result of the professionalism of the IDF, but in no small part because of the skilled work of the U.S. military and meticulous joint planning in anticipation of the attack. We are also aware of reports of a terrorist attack in Jaffa that took the lives of a number of Israeli civilians and wounded several others today. Our condolences go out to the families of the victims and to the family of the Palestinian civilian in Jericho. Obviously, my update here is...
Sorry, some updates from the CNN live thread that I find interesting. First of all, U.S. Navy destroyers in Eastern Mediterranean Sea intercepted Iranian missiles. God damn. I have to admit, I don't know that much about, like, the details of missile interception technology, but for this to have worked from the Eastern Mediterranean, meaning that they would have been, like, not in between the launch point and the target point, but farther from, like, for the interceptors would have been fired from, like, tens, maybe hundreds of miles west of the landing point of the ballistic missiles. It's just really impressive technology. Hamas praises Iranian missile attacks in Israel. Well, of course. We affirm that this honorable Iranian response is a strong message to the Zionist enemy and its fascist government on the path to deterring them and curbing their terrorism, as their crimes, arrogance, and violations of international laws and humanitarian norms have exceeded all limits, Hamas said in a statement. Man, have they been watching my streams? Unfortunately, like, as a consequence of Israel being literally Nazi Germany, a lot of the stuff Hamas and Iran says about them, as long as they don't do any anti-Semitic dog whistling, is going to be objectively correct. In this case, this is an objectively correct statement. The only way you could read anything incorrect in it would be if the Zionist is a dog whistle for Jews, which, in fairness, with Hamas, it probably is, but they are also definitionally Zionist. So it is, you know, objectively correct and perhaps implicitly biased. Honorable? As I said, an objectively correct statement. Don't worry about it.
Based on early reports, and we reserve the right to amend and adjust as necessary as we gather more information. The word fog of war was invented for a situation like this.
Yeah, it was invented for StarCraft.
Situation. We will consult with the Israelis on next steps in terms of the response and how to deal with what Iran has just done, and we will continue to monitor for further threats and attacks from Iran and its proxies.
Vaush, are you not scared of saying that? Of making, like, joking statements of support for the Islamist regime of Iran? No, I've done it like 500,000 times. My actual positions are pretty clear. I can make whatever jokes I want. The nice thing about being someone with clear and consistent morals is that you can actually make a bunch of jokes because nobody can fairly accuse you of dog whistling or hiding your position. Because I can always just point to my actual position, which is really, really, really clear, right? The main problem with people who joke about, like, support for this or that the other is that oftentimes they're too cowardly to be clear with their position. So the jokes are, you're meant to, like, infer their support or, like, oh, what are they hiding? But in my case, it's not really a concern unless somebody wants to be bad faith and assume that all of my clear statements have been themselves jokes, which, you know, if sometimes if people want to say you're a liar, they're just going to say you're a liar. There's nothing I can do to, you know, your actual position is that you're Iran's strongest soldier, right? Correct.
We are particularly focused on protecting U.S. service members in the region. And with that, I'll take just a few questions. Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. Is the administration making any preparations to evacuate U.S. citizens from Lebanon or elsewhere in the region?
We have been very clear for some time now that U.S. citizens should avail themselves of commercial means to depart Lebanon, given everything that's going on.
But we're not going to, evacuate them yet, even though the missile strikes have already killed over 1,000 Lebanese people. We're just going to, like, if you want to get out of Lebanon right now as a U.S. citizen, if you want to go from Lebanon to the United States, the tickets are thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because there aren't that many of them. A lot of airlines have shut down and people are clamoring to flee before Israel, like, inevitably fucking glasses Beirut.
Said that from this podium, from multiple podiums, we continue to say that, but we have not begun triggering a non-combatant emergency evacuation.
Losers.
And do not have an intention to do so at this time. If that changes, we'll let you know, but we continue to reinforce the point. American citizens in Lebanon should follow the guidance from the State Department, which is to find civilian commercial means to depart, because in extremis, we may not be able to get them out safely. Yes.
Thanks, Jake. What is the U.S. view on whether Israel should retaliate, and what is your concern about this leading to a wider escalation of war in the region?
We've had some initial discussion.
Well, our official position is that we love war and we love death. So,
with the Israelis in the aftermath of this at the military level and also at the White House to Prime Minister's office level. We'll continue those conversations in the hours ahead. I'm not going to prejudge or get ahead of anything. We want to have some deep consultations with the Israelis, and I'll have more to report to you after we get the opportunity for deeper discussions.
And escalation in the region?
Obviously, this is a significant escalation by Iran. A significant.
Oh yeah, that's so true, man. I mean, Israel, like, struck within their territory and has been indiscriminately bombing in Beirut, southern Lebanon, the West Bank, Syria, Gaza Strip, been killing officials everywhere, struck the consulate in fucking Damascus. But no, this is like a severe escalation from Iran. No, I agree, Israel, the eternal victim, can only ever be escalated against. They can never escalate.
Significant event, and it is equally significant that we were able to step up with Israel and create a situation in which no one was killed in this attack in Israel, so far as we know at this time. We are now going to look at...
Except for the person in the West Bank you literally just mentioned. I mean, I know that there's some, like, international law fuckery around, like, West Bank ownership by Israel, even though, obviously, in, like, a practical sense, Israel has the monopoly on the use of violence within the West Bank, so functionally that makes it a part of Israel. Likewise with the Gaza Strip. It just makes it sound like you don't care that someone died.
At what the appropriate next steps are to secure, first and foremost, American interests, and then to promote stability to the maximum extent possible as we go.
I just checked flights. There were only 200 to 300 for flights out of Lebanon. Is that true? Because I did that check out of curiosity after seeing a Twitter post saying that it was in the thousands, and I was seeing some pretty crazy numbers. Maybe that was just for, like, that day, or like, but in the future days they've panned out flight-wise, or maybe there was a change in policy, or they've had more flights diverted. I'm not sure. But either way, I'm glad they can get out, like, cheaper.
Forward. Yeah.
Back in April, the president's message to Israel was to take the win when the U.S. and Israel were able to intercept the barrage of Iranian missiles. Is he recommending a similarly limited response this time?
I will not, from this podium, share the president's recommendations. He will have the opportunity to share them directly. We're going to have, as I said, ongoing consultations with the Israelis this afternoon, this evening. It is too early for me to tell you anything publicly in terms of our assessment or in terms of what our expectations are of the Israelis or the advice that we will give them.
So will he be speaking to Prime Minister Netanyahu today?
I don't have anything to announce from this podium, but I can tell you that he is tracking this minute by minute. We are very much deeply in touch with the Israelis, and insofar as we have calls to read out, we'll make sure to read them out with you. Just last question, then I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Jake. In April, after Iran struck Israel, the U.S. issued a number of sanctions as a consequence. This morning, the president said there would be severe consequences if Iran carried out this attack. What are those consequences, and are they more severe than sanctions?
Totally legitimate question, and that answer will come based on the conversations and consultations we have with our Israeli counterparts. It's too soon for me to stand before you today and give you an answer. What I can tell you is this. We are proud of the actions that we've taken alongside Israel to protect and defend Israel. We have made clear that
I think one of the greatest indicators of our relative weakness and the weakness of this administration is that there is never an affirmative message that gets repeated and rebroadcasted. The only thing that everyone in the administration is always willing to say when somebody puts a camera in their face is we stand with Israel. That's the only thing they can say. In terms of any like specifics, they always have to defer to the president or the State Department because they don't know exactly how far we're going to go on the let's let them walk over the red line thing. You know what I mean? Like, we keep conceding and conceding and conceding, and oh, they can go farther and farther and farther, but they can't, like, speak on that impromptu because it might give the impression that there actually is no strategy or plan, that we're just letting Israel run amok. Why even have a press briefing if they won't directly answer questions? It's relatively common for them to do that. They're basically just saying, hey, hello, we're awake, we're here. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, no. The fact that, like, the only affirmative position they're ever willing to take is we stand with Israel. Are we Israel's puppet state now? No, we're not Israel's puppet state. The Biden administration is weak. Biden is a Zionist. There are a lot of ties between Israel and America with regards to the military-industrial complex, the right wing, that sort of thing. And yes, with Zionists. And we're in an optically difficult position when it comes to, like, how do you rein in Israel when you have a president who is a Zionist? What can you even do?
There will be consequences, severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jake. Okay. On to the rest of
Yeah, I made this comparison before, and I think it's probably a lot more apt than any other one we could come up with. But you have to imagine that, like, America is a whipped, permissive parent, and Israel is a spoiled kid who keeps knocking shit off the shelves at a grocery store, you know? Like, we chastise them, we tell them to stop, we don't really stop them. But when other parents come up and tell us, like, hey, you got to get your kid in line, we screech at them. That's essentially what we are. Now, it would be, like, I guess, chastising. There would be, like, an undercurrent of satirical truth to say, like, oh, wow, the kid controls you. But in reality, not really. It's just that we're weak and conditioned to allow them to do whatever they want. They don't literally control us.
programming here. This morning, President Biden was briefed by his Homeland Security Advisor, Liz Sherwood Randall, on the latest impacts of Hurricane Helene, and this afternoon he will receive an interagency briefing on the Hurricane Helene response and recovery efforts. At the president's direction, the Biden-Harris administration continues to use every tool available.
I was mostly here for we'll be covering the Helene stuff as it goes forward. She sucks? Well, yeah, of course. We'll see what the response ends up being.